Now it's recording.
And I'm ready. I'm
What
ready.
up? What up?
What is up, Stuart?
Dude, we're on episode 20 of Filling
Yes.
the Storehouse podcast.
Awesome.
I think wasn't
Awesome.
wasn't it 20 was like the threshold of like successful podcast or not? I think it was.
But I think that was Dave Pial from
Uh,
Military to Millionaire
yeah.
that said that. And you have to always consider the source. Excuse me. And being a Marine, 20 is about the max number of fingers and toes you have. So I think that may have been the limitation there. So he
Yeah.
probably just threw that number out there.
I hope he listens to this.
I do too. I do
Yeah,
too.
because we're just talking all kinds of smack about David Pierre
I
right now.
love I love David
And
Pierre.
Marines.
He's awesome. I love Marines. They're awesome.
Oh man. Well, hey, I'm Stu. That's David, and this is Filling the Storehouse podcast. We're on episode 20, and
T.
we've kind of been on the subject of mindset a lot. We've had a couple speakers now, and they were also speakers at the Veterans REI Live conference that we were a part of. And like I said, we've been hitting on mindset a lot. We're going to kind of talk about it one more time, kind of as like another recap. It's like a second, third recap to the recap.
The recap to the recap.
Recap to the recap. But the last speaker of the Veterans REI Live Conference was a gentleman by the name of Walter Bond, and he wrote a book. And I have it right here. If you're watching on the YouTube, it's called Swim, and I actually just finished it. And it's a quick read, and it was pretty impactful. It's kind of a parable. It's a story about a guy that's out fishing, and it's about a shark, a suckerfish, and a parasite. And it really kind of teaches you about leadership, mentoring, and next level success. And I won't spoil the whole story for you, but it talks about the shark mindset, and he calls it the sacred six. I'm just going to read the sacred six real fast, and then I'm going to talk about the last one, the sixth one, which is by far, we think the most important one. And it kind of goes and ties into our business, Storehouse 310 Ventures, and what we've really been kind of searching for, and what kind of, what our why is all about. So here we go, the sacred six, and this is from Walter Bond's book, Swim. So sharks never stop moving forward. They're always moving forward. Sharks never look down. They always look up. Sharks are always curious and they're always learning. Sharks always respect their environment and recognize other sharks. Sharks are always flexible, and sharks always elevate their suckerfish to new levels. And so the kind of the premises of the book is, sharks, are obviously like the king of the ocean, right? And they're the leaders within the community of the oceans, but they have these suckerfish that attach to them that help them. They're almost like partners, if you will, and they help them by fighting the one thing that could truly probably kill them, which is parasites. And so they have this relationship, this mutual relationship where they benefit each other. And it's a really cool metaphor. It's a pretty cool book. So I highly recommend getting it and reading it. But for us, for David and I, we've kind of been like really kind of doing some deep dive into our why, and we've talked about our why a lot on this podcast. But we think it's really important, and we think the mindset is really important because that's a big part of your success and the habits that you create. And what these themes keep on coming up, and it's in this book as well. It's these themes of leadership, education, and giving. And so we kind of broke that down into three categories today, and we wanted to kind of hit on those topics as kind of bringing it all together, mindset type discussion. So, Dave, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I think it's awesome, and you should definitely, if you have the opportunity, that you can still go to the Veterans REI Live website. You can also, gain access and listen to Walter Bond and have him explain. I mean, just an awesome motivational speaker. Great story, and really fired us up. I know that's how we culminated the conference, and just hearing him speak was incredible. So good book, great speaker. So I definitely recommend going to check him out. But 100% agree, Stewie, that the leadership education giving, just stuff that we've been talking about so much, focusing on, and really, as we continue to mull these things over, looking at future businesses and really creating businesses that are for the benefit of others, akin to everything that Josh and Lisa Lannon described in their book, The Social Capitalist. Highly recommend that as well. But they're the founders of Warrior's Heart, who we work with quite a bit. And just reading that book, talking to them, it's just mind-blowing stuff. So, the purpose behind creating businesses is really important. I want to talk about the leadership aspect. These things, mindset it's an active workout. It's something that you participate in, right? You're not going to wake up one morning. Well, maybe you're lucky and you wake up one morning, have a beautiful mindset, and it's just a mindset driven towards action. But that's not typically the way it works.
That's how it worked for me. I mean, I was naturally born leader. I just woke up and was like, yep, leader.
Yeah,
Got it all.
no. And that, there's, in a future podcast, we're going to talk about being delusional and how that could impact your business ventures, and how you can fight through some of those
We have a
things.
plan to talk about delusion.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you about it later,
Oh,
because there's just some things I've been noticing about you. But from the leadership perspective, I think that you have to ask yourself a couple questions, and as you're developing that mindset, you have to really consider: are you actively developing the mindset of a servant leader? Do you intentionally find ways to benefit others? These are questions that you should ask in everything you're doing, whether you're active duty military, you're starting a business, you have employees, you have service members, whatever the case may be. Are you actively seeking to be a servant leader and help those around you, and lead them in a way that is beneficial for them, not just you? One of the things that Dave Ramsey said that I loved is he talks about catching your employees doing the right thing, doing well, not walking around looking for them doing wrong, but doing well. That's a mindset. That's something that you choose beforehand. You choose to decide to shift into a different gear and say, I'm going to find my people doing the right thing, and then I'm going to honor them. I'm going to reward them. I'm going to highlight it and really showcase my people. That's a mindset.
there's
And
another
where,
there's another really good book, The Go Giver by Bob Berg. And that kind of reminds me of that servant leadership mentality. Is you're creating a business that's serving others and leading people in that positive note that you're talking about. So I highly recommend that book as well.
yeah, no, great recommendation. Um, and I think you have to ask yourself, whose needs are the focus? Is it yours, or is it those that you're serving? And because at the end of the day, especially as an entrepreneur or as a service member, you can't do this on your own, right? Leadership is about getting folks pointed in the right direction, and driving towards that mission, that goal accomplishment, and figuring out how to get there most expeditiously, and in the way that's most beneficial to the team, for mission accomplishment. And there's challenges there within. Uh, there's also an active exercise in developing empathy. This that doesn't come naturally to everybody, but do you put yourself in others' shoes? Do you put yourself in the shoes of your employees and those that are potentially seeking your advice, seeking your guidance? And it's such an important thing to consider. And Chris Voss, in his book Never Split the Difference, talks about a couple things. I won't dive into the full explanation of what they are, but highly recommend that book as well. But he talks about tactical empathy, which is the ability to consciously demonstrate an understanding of from your employee's perspective. But that's an exercise. That's something that you have to focus on. It's something that you have to develop, because it just doesn't come naturally. He also talks about the developing your emotional intelligence, and really developing your emotional intelligence to become a better leader, and But it also, when you do these things, when you understand some of these finer points and nuances, it makes you a better negotiator. It helps you to close deals. It helps you to get your team on the same track. It in the end, all of this effort to be a better leader, to guide others, to be more active in that endeavor is going to benefit you. And if that's your primary motivation, that's not our recommendation. But ultimately, when you're doing these types of things, you are going to benefit. Not only that book, Never Split the Difference, but also he has a Black Swan Group blog. I'd also recommend that because he talks about a lot of it's just bite-sized pieces from his book and different ideas, but different authors come in and talk about these things. Again, another resource, another way to make you conscious of and develop your leadership, your tactical empathy, your emotional intelligence, and at least just be aware of what those things are. And then finally, from a leadership perspective, leading requires action. What are you doing as a leader? Who are you reaching out to? Who are you actively engaging? We all have opportunities to lead every day. If you're in the military and you have a war room meeting, that right there is an opportunity to lead. A training session, an opportunity to lead. Your conversations with your employees, an opportunity to lead. So you need to see those opportunities for what they are. And they're just these throughout the day, a ton of different ways to potentially help somebody out and to lead them in the right direction. And then, finally, developing content and showing others a path is also leadership. We make fun of Dave Pierre, but the dude's crushing it with the content he develops, and he's literally leading people, potentially people he's never even met. Stu with his posts, and which is shocking, but with his posts, LinkedIn, Facebook, phone calls, all these type of things, podcasts, you are always have the potential to lead people in every single one of those forums and one of those opportunities.
Yeah, I think that's that kind of this last point of leadership requires action, and leadership requires that you're the one reaching out to people, not waiting for someone to reach out to you. You're the one doing posts, doing podcasts. We started this podcast. You're the one. I got challenged to do a Facebook Live for 30 days. I was incredibly uncomfortable. I'm not a big fan of social media. I never have been. I didn't even have a Facebook account. Still actually don't. I just put my first name on the front of my wife's Facebook page and call it good.
That is so budget.
It is budget.
Social media, so budget.
It is. Yeah. Hey, man. You didn't even have one for the longest time. You just got one yourself. So
no, I simply hadn't logged in for 11 years. And that's what Facebook said last time you logged in. 11 years. I think I was in Paris or something.
Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome. But yeah, this Facebook Live challenge, I've been doing a post, every day for 26 days now in June, and just coming up with new ideas, new thoughts, new topics, and stuff that I'm practicing, I'm learning myself. But if that helps one person, if one person watches that, one of the Facebook Live posts that I did was the starfish story. I just read the starfish story, and it's, to summarize it, a big storm comes through. There's a bunch of starfish on the beach. An old man's walking, and he sees a little kid throwing one starfish into the ocean. And he asks, hey, what are you doing? And the kid's like, hey, I'm throwing starfish in. They're going to die if they are out here in the sun. And the old man's like, well, there's thousands of starfish, throwing one at a time isn't going to make that much of a difference. And the little boy reaches down, throws another starfish, and he goes, hey, I made a difference for that one. And that's just it.
Yeah.
Being a leader, taking action, doing those steps, reaching out to people, and serving and helping. And
we had to actively talk about that, and the things that we support. You and I have actually talked about, whether it's support to Operation Underground Railroad or Warrior's Heart. You're not going to save them all, and that can be overwhelming. But when you put thought to it, and the starfish story is a beautiful illustration of that, you can make a significant difference in one person's life. And that's huge for that person. If you think about it from the perspective of that person, it's life-changing, right? It changed everything about their prospects. It potentially changed their entire life. And while you'd love to save them all, if you, as you save one at a time, save one at a time, you're still making a huge difference. And I'll tell you, I love that story when you read it on your Facebook Live. I was also shocked. I didn't know you could read. Like that was actually, so that was kind of a mind blowing
Well,
times two for
what I
me.
did, what you didn't see in the background was I had my 5-year-old read it and kind of just whisper in my ear.
She's
And I
like
was
mouthing.
just,
She's like,
yeah.
yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Awesome.
Yeah, my
Just thought,
5-year-old
I thought
reads
that
it.
was an important, point to emphasize.
You're so funny, man. Um, last kind of thing about the leadership that just kind of came to mind is, reaching out. You and I have been really trying to reach out to, younger us's. I don't think that doesn't make sense, but younger people in our shoes. You live there in Annapolis, Maryland. You've kind of been going to the Naval Academy and reaching out to football players and trying to actively find opportunities to mentor and lead. And I've had some recent conversations with sailors that served with me in the past, and they're trying to get into financial literacy and education and real estate investing. Another Naval Academy graduate, brand new Marine, reached out, and we've had conversations. And one, it's fun for me to know and help and educate and serve. I think it's incredibly important just to continuously bring people along. And that's what that last step in the book of that Walter Bond talks about is, hey, you're not successful until you're elevating others to the next level. You're bringing on people with you and elevating up and making them successful. And like Dan Lesniak, our last guest on our podcast, he even said it. He's like, I want to make other people millionaires. And like his company is like, it's $1 billion company. And that mindset of I'm going to make other people successful, like it ultimately is going to create success for you too.
Yeah, and if you, as you analyze these things too, as you're leading others, so potentially some young Marine, young Navy guy, gal reaches out to us, and we help them, potentially give them mentorship, guidance, and they go on the path of real estate. Not that this is ever the intent, but you never know. But these are the things you should analyze. So that's now a potential investor or a buyer in your business. So that helps you, that helps your employees, it helps them to achieve financial independence. But then, you may inspire them to, for us, Warrior's Heart. We tell them about Warrior's Heart. They're like, man, that fires me up. And potentially that guy's now a career-long giver to Warrior's Heart. And how many lives does that benefit, right? So the compound interest of that investment is truly life-changing. And that is a miracle, right? So all the things that are super important to you, if you are offering that leadership agenda free, could potentially pay back in ways you'll never know. And that's pretty exciting. And I think that's a huge part of the equation. And as you analyze this stuff and you set a mindset that's focused towards these things, the impact that you can truly make is significant. And ultimately it could drive your business in a very good way as well.
Love it, man. Let's get on the next topic, education. And this is something that David needs a lot of. He's continuously trying to educate himself because he's not that educated right
Well,
now.
that they say that the best way to actually learn something is to teach it. So whenever we set the, show notes up and talk about these things, I try to give you the topics that I think you're the most weak in. And so this is a great opportunity for you to teach us and to learn through that process, hopefully.
Just jabs, just left
Yeah,
and right.
love it.
So honestly, I think knowledge is what truly separates people. Um, you know, those that hold the value of knowledge and seek it continuously, you're so much better off, and that's going to lead to that that success habit of continuously learning, always learning. And I like to think about it as, a child. It was one of my Facebook Live posts. I talked about my daughter. Like, we read a book every night before she goes to bed, and like she like kind of just like she loves learning, and that idea of just being curious and always wanting to like learn something new. And she was like, Daddy, tomorrow I want to learn something. I want to learn about bees, and I want to learn about flowers. And it's like she's always just like trying to learn something new. And that's how we should be. Like, it's funny, like as adults we kind of grow out of that, but we shouldn't. Like, we should always be like trying to learn something new every day. And but again, it's not about you. It's not like this self education. It's not about you, because if you look at it in the mindset of, I'm going to get educated to then serve others and help others, um, it's going to come, full circle right back around to you. So I don't know what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think with the more educated you are, I also believe that the more value you're at. And I think that that goes, for military parlance, that's up and down the chain of command, right? So when you're looking at a business and you want some mentorship, if you bring some knowledge to that situation, you can help the person that you're seeking to mentor you, and whatever that looks like. And you have self-educated, you know some things, you can add value to that person. They're going to want to bring you on, right? Emotions are cheap, so you could be super excited. And I've heard, I can't remember where I was listening to it. Maybe it was Dave Ramsey. I don't know who it was. Some entrepreneur, like, yeah, someone comes to me with an idea. I'm like, cool, come back in 6 months. Because when you come up with that first idea and you're like, man, I'm fired up, this is awesome, I want to do this. A lot of that is not real, but that education piece, the knowledge piece, as you go forward and you spend 6 months developing that, and you show that you're truly passionate about it, and then you come back later, that's a value add. So that's up the chain. But then down, you can best serve people with the more that you know, and the more you're intaking, the more you're learning. And when someone comes to you and asks you a question, you're not just giving them some BS answer based on your emotion and what you think. You're telling them based on your, either it's experiences or whatever. So I think that's a phenomenal point, Stu, is you can add so much value with the education, and it's a great way to give back.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, unfortunately, there's obviously so much to learn all the time. And, there's a lot of important education that isn't in our education system, the traditional education system. And so that's where, like, you as a leader have to take action and go seek out that education yourself and go find it and learn it. And, that comes through listening to podcasts. You should absolutely listen to Fill in the Storehouse podcast, because we offer just incredible advice. And you should give us a 5-star review and give us, amazing, sharing and all that kind of stuff. But
And the humility of the podcast
yeah,
is
it's we're
the
always
most
humble
humble,
about.
people that we know.
But like, so podcasts, mastermind groups, another huge one. Like surrounding yourself around people that can be that are that shark, right? And you're the sucker fish, attached to a shark, and start learning from those individuals. What else? Books. Like, be a constant learner, a constant reader. I mean, that old like saying of leaders are readers. I think it's absolutely true. And just like David said, like I can barely read, but I'm still trying. I hated
Audiobooks.
audiobooks. yeah, audiobooks. I hated reading. Like, I'm an engineer guy. Like, I like Excel spreadsheets. I like math. I like solving problems. And I wouldn't say, like, I truly wasn't even a reader until after college. And so but I think that's incredibly important, is to kind of like dig in and force yourself to continuously learn about something. It should be daily, like daily. But it's interesting, as you kind of change your mindset, you have these conversations with people, and even like even family members, you have these conversations with family members and friends and sailors and people that you lead. And sometimes it's, uh, I guess frustrating, maybe a word for it. Unfortunate, because there's a lot of people that just aren't educated, especially in kind of the finance world. I mean, I'm talking to full grown adults and they don't even know the first thing about like finance and um, mortgages and banking and interest rates. And I mean, there's so much stuff that you can get educated on, and there's so many people that aren't educated. It's kind of sad.
Well, there's certain topics that are taboo, right? For whatever reason, religion, politics, finances, and
Yeah, money.
people, money. I mean, these are taboo topics for whatever reason. Again, and I know in your household you try to do the same, but in mine, I'm trying to break down all those barriers and talk to my kids. It's funny because my daughter or my two older kids play Minecraft. I've never played Minecraft, but they build stuff and whatever. And Maya keeps coming up and saying, "Daddy, look, I built a hotel. This is the house I built." And I'm like, "Cool. Is it generating income for you?" And she said, "Yeah,
Nice.
you can like rent it out or whatever the mechanics of it are." But she's thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
It's Jake is just like, he's just mindlessly goes after, but that's boys for you. But you bring up a great point in that, so one of the first conversations I'll have is someone wants to talk religion. So it's so emotional. The first question I ask to kind of take that emotion down is, have you read the Bible? Well, no, I haven't. Okay, then cool. I'm not really sure then like how real of a conversation we can have about the Bible if you never opened it, right? Like it's just no other topics would have that same level of a lack of pursuit of what that source document is. If we're talking about physics, right? It's not as emotional, or
Right.
engineering. It's not as emotional. There's a book that talks about some laws and principles of engineering, and you talk about those things, whether you agree or disagree, and you work through that. These topics are different, and it's so interesting because when you do talk to the people that are educated about it, the motion can potentially go away outside of strategies that you might argue about on how to make money, right? But it's breaking down those walls. Education will help you do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also interesting because I think because you and I have had these conversations before about, talking with family about money. And I don't know if it is like a, um, I don't know if it's like like our family, that, our parents, they're like baby boomers. And I don't know if it's a generational thing, but like I didn't talk about money when I was a kid. And I know you didn't either, because we've had these conversations. And mom, dad, if you're listening to this, I love you. No fault of yours. I think it's a generational thing. I don't know if you guys talked about money with your parents or not, but I think it's important. And I think we right now should be having those conversations with kids to start teaching them about money at an early age. And I don't know if, for whoever's following me on Facebook, I just did, um, I just had like kind of our first money conversation with my 5-year-old. And she's starting to kind of get some money from chores, like working for money. You have to work for money to make money. And we kind of put it, we set up 3 separate jars, one for saving, investing, one for giving, and one for spending. And we talked about investing, and she actually, we did a promissory note with her for $50. And she's making 100% interest in a year on her $50, which I kind of broke it down to basically $1 a week to get her excited about it. I ginned up a little like promissory note, and she actually signed it. And I have it on my calendar to basically give her $1 every single Friday. So she starts seeing like how money can make more money and how interest works. And, it's a very simple concept, and she kind of gets it, but when she starts getting those dollars every Friday, she's going to really get it. But like that education, and us, again, going back to leadership and taking action, I think it's incredibly important to talk to our kids and teach them about money, teach them about entrepreneurship, teach them about continuously being curious and wanting to educate themselves. You know, there's a quote in the Bible that we have here. It's from Proverbs 3:13 through 18. It says, joyful is the person who finds wisdom, the one who gains understanding. For wisdom is more profitable than silver, and her wages are better than gold. Wisdom is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her. She offers you long life in her right hand and riches and honor in her left hand. She will guide you down delightful paths. All her ways are satisfying. Wisdom is a tree of life to those who embrace her. Happy are those who hold her light tightly. Um, I mean, it says it all right there. I think that the education, that wisdom, the joy in learning is so powerful. And I think if we as leaders, as adults, as parents, as mentors, can constantly remind people that is such an important part of someone's life, the better it will be.
Yeah, and it also hits on a point of how do you react when someone's offering you that education, when someone's schooling you, right?
Yeah.
And the Bible has a ton of wisdom, which is why we why we read it and spend time in it, and it's such a big part of our lives and our faith. But and there's a ton of financial advice in there as well. And it's funny that as we go through these groups and read through the Bible, and there's so many different nuggets that I pick up, and I'm sure it's the same for you. As my mindset changes, I'm like, oh wow, that's awesome. It just kind of speaks to you. But one thing recently for me is, in the past, I've been very prideful in my ignorance. And as I look back now, even now that, I mean, you school me just before this, before we hit record, we're talking about a mobile home park opportunity that came up your way. And there's, just through your education, we're talking through kind of, the finer points of it. But each of those conversations, I'm learning something. And maybe 2 years ago, I would not have been as open. I'd be like, oh, I I understand. Excuse me.
That's like daily, right? I mean, I'm pretty much like schooling you, educating you kind of on a daily basis.
Yeah, usually it's in ignorance. It's like in the ways that, like, okay, I don't want to be that way. Like, don't do that. But it's a mindset. It's a mindset of growth to go into a room full of people who are smarter than you, and you acknowledge it. And then that shifts something in you to be a sponge in a receive mode. And then to go from that, there's, as Walter Bond highlights it, there's nothing, a sucker is the sucker fish is necessary. It keeps the shark alive. There's nothing wrong with a sucker fish. It's a stage, right? But it's a necessary stage, and it's important. But then how do you become that shark? Well, you gotta hang out with other sharks, right? You got to figure out the way they do things and how they move and what they're all about. And when you're schooled, I would just offer that that's a mindset. The education piece, there's also a mindset to it, to be in a receive mode, and to be able to receive that broadcast and do something about it and turn it into action.
Yeah. And what's the quote that Josh Landon gave us when we interviewed him? He said, "What was it?
You said, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear."
That's it. When the student's ready, the teacher will appear. You got to be ready to receive it. And if you're not, and you're not open to learning, and instead, you kind of react in a negative way, or you get defensive, and there's always someone else that knows more than you. There's always an opportunity to learn. And I mean, if you just like break down and you're defensive and you're not willing to accept it, then it's never going to learn.
Yeah. And we effectively, we were on a call with Josh and Lisa and Tom Spooner, after that. And man, I'll tell you, just even the sense of talking to folks like that, they're on a different level, right? They're on a different level. And it excited me because I'm like, that's where I want to be there in so many different ways. And so, as we talk to them but again, we left that conversation like, okay, we got to be serious, got to put on our big boy and girl pants, and I guess you potentially wear girl pants. I don't know, nothing wrong with that. But
I knew that was coming.
but we realize that, hey, we got to up our game, and we got to up our education, and we got to show them that we're serious, because at the end of the day, which is, you could take that a couple ways. I mean, it is humbling, but in a great way. Like they're legit, and they're moving, right? And we knew after that conversation, they're serious. And if we're not serious, we will very quickly fall off of any conversation they have, not maliciously. They just don't have time for people who don't have the mindset for action.
Yeah. It's good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into the last one. We could talk for hours, and I think both of us are going to have babies descending upon us soon. I already had one. I'm like, go back upstairs.
Yeah.
So giving, a lot of times when people think about giving, they think about money. And again, it's a mindset, right? Giving money is amazing. And it really can help whatever organization or people or whatever it is you're trying to do. It can absolutely help them in that situation. But giving, when it comes to money, is a finite thing. There's a certain amount of money. You give that money, and you're moving on. And that could be a lot of money. That could be a little money. But it's a transactional thing. And then it's potentially, people can use that money to do great things, but it's, from your perspective, that thing is, it's done after that transaction. But the generosity of time and knowledge and leadership can be so much more valuable. And again, we give money, and I think that's an important part of our business, and it's a foundational principle, and it's super important. However, if you take somebody and you lead somebody through, you give them your experiences, both wins and losses, right? Both are equally important. Usually the losses are more important, not only for others to learn from, but to for your personal education. Those losses are huge, and they can make you grow at a lot faster clip than the wins. But if you offer those experiences to the benefit of others, so that they can grow from your experiences, that's huge. And it's very difficult to measure the level of influence of your giving, but it can change lives. Someone can hear something you say, they can read something you put out, and the trajectory of their life will vastly change, just because you introduced an idea and you gave the generosity of your time and your leadership and your education to the benefit of somebody, and it helped. And there's a lot of power in that.
Yeah, man. There's so much that you can do besides just giving some money away. And it's interesting. I had a conversation with my sister-in-law, who just became the COO of the Children's Advocacy Center in Dallas, Texas. And Children's Advocacy Centers, they deal with children that are underserved, that have gone through abuse, sexual assault, human trafficking, and there's so much like negativity there. And it was interesting, the conversation that I was having with her, because we're talking about our why and serving and giving, and she said that because it's such an uncomfortable subject, that people don't want to talk about it, and what they need is education. What they need is awareness. What they need are people talking about it, to make people understand that it's not just happening in some like foreign country off somewhere. Like, it could be happening in the white collar, wealthy, white only neighborhoods. The uncle of a kid is doing this, and it's not talked about because it's uncomfortable. And people are very quick to just like give some money to their organization, but they don't want to volunteer. They don't want to serve. They don't want to give their time. They don't want to talk about it because it's uncomfortable. And we got to get out of that mindset. Like, we have to like be uncomfortable. We have to like give and serve and give our time. And like, it's not just about giving money, which again, like you said, giving money is necessary. Like, money is a currency that flows, that Walter Bond talks about. Like, it's something that has to be used to elevate businesses and nonprofits. However, the education piece, the leadership piece, the awareness piece is just as important and or even more important than just giving money. So when you're thinking about giving, quote unquote giving, think about more than just writing a check to somebody. There's so many other ways that are probably way more impactful. And having those tough conversations with people, making people aware. That I just got challenged to do a 22-day 22 push-up challenge on Facebook. Again, a Facebook Live challenge. But suicide, veteran suicide, PTSD, that's an uncomfortable topic, right? But just a quick post every single day, which is uncomfortable for me. Like, I don't like going live on Facebook in front of people to do 22 push-ups, but like,
especially your push-ups are garbage.
They're pretty weak. I got a shoulder issue going on. It's all because of my shoulder.
Don't we all?
Yeah. but like, hey, being uncomfortable in front of people and talking about an issue that's serious, I could give money to some charity, and we do, but like raising awareness and talking about it and being uncomfortable. And anyway, so I'm beating a dead horse, but I think it's incredibly important.
No, it is, Stu. And I would offer to think about, for the listeners out there, think about a person that you'd want to sit down and gain knowledge from, right? Think about a person that you would, you would do anything just to sit down and pick their brain, right? We have a couple of those people, and would you prefer that they wrote you a check like, here's $10,000 to start your business? Or would you prefer them to spend that time and be like, okay, this is what I do. This is who I am. And you cultivate a relationship, you get awareness of that person, the way they do things. Like, I would much prefer the latter, right? Like, there's not even an amount of money necessarily that I would ask or want from some of those people. It's just that conversation, get to know them and understand where they're coming from, how they've made the impact that they've made. I think there's so much power in that. And ultimately, that knowledge can, again, we hit it before, but can change a life. And when you're seeking that education, when you're the person that's looking to give, are you trying to be the smartest person in the room? Or are you looking for opportunities to watch others succeed through empowering them through the education that you have? And I think that kind of wraps up from the giving perspective, and where we started is seeing others succeed as the goal. And for us, leadership, education, and giving are the three things that keep coming up. But there's so many other ways, but it's a mindset. You have to be active in that mindset, cultivate that mindset, and find the ways that you can make the greatest impact. It's an activity that requires action.
Yep. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. We could probably talk for another hour on this stuff.
We could.
Oh man, I love it. Well, I hope this was, helpful, for our listeners. I think it is. I think it's important. I think, this stuff, like, you can never get enough of it. There's always ways to improve in these categories. There's so many good books out there, so many good podcasts. Just continuously be pushing yourself to learn, to lead, to give, to serve. And I think we will all be better for it. So I think that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Would love it if you, tell people about our podcast. We want, to help and serve you in any way we can, and serve others in any way we can. And this is platform, we're really trying to help people. So please share it, tell people about it. And yeah, I think that's a good start. Anything else?
That's it.
That's it.
Good talk, buddy. Good talk.
All right. Well, you guys have an amazing week. And most importantly, go fill your storehouse.
Make it a great day.
See ya.